Hi, welcome back to AATV Live. I'm your host, Tom Anvil Hibberd, and this is our 3,000 subscriber special. Wow, 3,000. So, first things, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for subscribing. And if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and ding that bell so you get notifications whenever we upload a video or we go live. So, today, as I said, is our 3,000 subscriber special. We're going to talk about the beginnings of AATV. We're going to talk a bit about kit and how we got there. We're going to talk a bit about how we make films and how we live stream. And then I'm going to talk a bit about some of the projects we have upcoming and the status of them. And then we're going to do some questions I've already have. If you want to ask questions during the stream, please do in the comments. I'll be really pleased to see them, and we'll try and remember and catch up and answer them at the end. So a bit of admin as usual. I'm in the workshop, the door's open, there will be a bit of noise, probably some distractions and some dogs and some family members popping in to say hello and all of that kind of stuff. So expect some disruption. This is a little unscripted, this one, a bit impromptu, but I think we should enjoy it. I've managed to wangle up a guest, very familiar to I'm sure all of you, Mr. Gareth Gadge Harvey. How you doing, Gadge?
I'm all right, Tom. Hiya, mate.
How you doing? So what's in your cup, sir?
I am drinking a cheap and cheerful Brewdog Pale Ale. It's, it does the job, and it's in a bowl of ice, so it stays nice and cold.
That's awesome. I've got Innocent Guns. So Innocent Gun are a Scottish brewing company. This is the original barrel-aged bourbon barrel Scotch ale, which I'm quite excited about. In fact, I haven't even tried it yet, so let's try some live on camera. We should probably really do a beer channel at some point in the amount of time.
Well, the amount we drink, we should, yeah.
That is really good. So you've been up to anything this week? I think you've been painting some little men's again, haven't you?
I have literally been going blind painting 28mm Norman warriors and Anglo-Saxons for a game called Saga that I love.
Isn't that like the over 50s touring company?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, basically, you get all your little models and you put them on a cruise, and they go around the fjords of sort of Norway.
I'll just say thanks to everyone in the comment. Mark Greenway's here. James C. He says congratulations. He's been here since the hundreds. Gaz, he's been on the show. Jungle Airsoft blog. Lance, Thin Brown Line. Thanks, guys. Really awesome to see you. And thanks, guys. It's been it was really cool this week. I actually literally woke up and had 3,000 subs, and that was pretty awesome. Quite glad I actually caught it just on the 3,000 as well, so I managed to get that picture, so I didn't have to Photoshop it later. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about the beginnings of AATV and how we've got to where we are. And I'm not saying we're a big channel at all. We're really relatively, in the YouTube scheme of things, quite small. But Gadge really has been with me ever since the first episode, and even indeed the pilot episodes that most of you haven't seen. I think a few of you have seen some of the really ropey stuff we shot at the back of the kitchen.
Clicky clicky sound.
The clicky clicky sound. So, Gadge, should we have a brief chat about how we started the channel? And obviously, when we first started, it had a different name. It was Airsoft Action TV.
Yeah.
So we both worked for we both freelanced effectively for a magazine called Airsoft Action, which is still going. It's now digital only, has an online presence. And we approached the editor and said, we've got an idea to do a bit of a YouTube channel to help promote the magazine. And what we'd like to do is a kind of a two-man drinking coffee format where we discuss the issue, the upcoming issue. So how was that for you when we first started doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking that a lot of the things we wanted to review and talk about didn't really work in a print magazine format, but also as the idea that with print media, if a new gun came out, it might take a month before that print magazine came out, and we thought, actually, sometimes we're so excited we want to talk about it now. And I remember talking to Nige, the editor, and he was like really supportive about the idea. So Tom and I mocked up some, and they were very rough. You could hear my mate's baby crying in the background. We had the camera was trying to focus all the time on us as we moved. It was going. Click,
yeah,
click,
we had the families. Actually, it's a decent DSLR camera that we were using, but we literally just stuck it on a tripod and went for it. We didn't know anything about filmmaking, and we left it on autofocus, and it was hunting for a shot the whole time.
And the sound was terrible, so we didn't have separate mics. But we took these demo videos to the IWA show in Germany, and I was a bit embarrassed showing some people, because I knew they weren't as good as they could be. But everybody was showing to was like, actually, this is exactly what we want to see. This is kind of like it's very real, it's very homey. It's two guys who obviously like get on with each other and are friends, discussing real airsoft. It's not high production value, because everyone sees that as a little bit fake, I think, these days. Well, sometimes, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've got some views on it now, but yeah, we'll go into that in a bit.
But I mean, like, what I mean is, it wasn't like a mini movie like you might get some airsoft company doing to promote an item. It was more. People said there's obviously really a chemistry between you guys, and there is, because we've been airsofting mates since 2001, I think. You know.
Yeah, and beer buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was actually, if we're quite honest, that was like that. I think probably, as well as us approaching Nige, the editor, a lot of it was our respective partners getting really bored in the pub as me and Gadge waffled at each other.
Yeah.
And pretty much said, why don't you put this on camera and release it? You know.
Yeah, and also, as I say, being freelance journalists, we'd have a lot of free time, and if we're going to talk about airsoft, we may as well film it and see if anybody else wants to hear it. You know.
It's very true. Okay, so forward. I can't remember. I think we did about 9 months, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then you joined ASG.
Yep.
And we were and then we had there's a bit of kerfuffle over you remaining independent, but we had a very clear policy, and we still do actually. I still have a very clear policy with Gadge, and Gadge doesn't appear in an episode which would have a conflict of interest with his role at ASG. So Gadge doesn't do gun reviews, Gadge doesn't do gear reviews unless it's like 20 years old and really smelly. Yeah. You know,
it's just not fair, is it? At the end of the day, I mean, with the best will in the world, if we're going to talk about let's say ASG did a Scorpion 2 or something like that, I'll get sacked if I said it was rubbish. If it was, I'm sure it'd be great. I'm sure he wouldn't make a rubbish gun. But the point being is, would it be objective? Of course it wouldn't. So, by the same respect, I can't talk about somebody else's gun on an objective level. And so it's only fair that, like I say, we talk about gameplay, we talk about kit and uniforms, we talk about game culture. Yep. But if it's actually technical stuff, one, I'm not that technical as an airsofter anyway, and two, it wouldn't be fair.
No. So we have I effectively see Gadge as my historical advisor, or along those lines. You know, if I need a really good, sensible, considered opinion about something, Gadge is one of the guys that I'll go to. Certainly, when it comes to 30-year-old smelly Cold War kit, then he's absolutely the man to go to. Okay, so progress a little further. So that was about October, November last year. I ended up taking the channel away from Airsoft Action, and there was nothing nefarious or underhand going on there. It was literally my views of Airsoft, which I think most of you will know is really quite close to the letter of the law, not the spirit, which is the acting out of military and law enforcement scenarios and the gear that goes with that. That's what I'm interested in, and I was increasingly struggling to get interested about kit which didn't fall into those lines. And so my views of Airsoft and the commercial needs of the magazine no longer met up. And it just made sense for me to take the channel in one direction and the magazine to do what it's doing quite successfully in another direction entirely. And I had a few questions at the time, and it was a bit scary, but it was the right thing to do, and it was the right thing to do for me. And that's where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing you going through those issues with going, can I be objective? Can I be direct? When with any commercial enterprise, you've got to look at the idea of like, am I going to annoy an advertiser or a sponsor or whatever by being very direct or honest? And it's far better to be able to go, do you know what? I can say what I like because I'm paying for every gun I review now. Or I'm kind of like, I'm not actually beholden to someone else. In the same way that, with my employer, if I gave you something to review and you said it was rubbish, then fair enough. I wouldn't be ecstatic about it because obviously I've got to try and promote the stuff we do. But equally, I'd understand that you weren't beholden to us in any way. So I think it's not even objective.
It's not even a product's shit, for example. It's literally I can't get excited about it.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of things in for review before we split that I didn't ended up. And they were mainly for the magazine and also mainly for video, and I just couldn't get excited about it. I can't get excited about something which doesn't have trademarks on, which doesn't look like a real airsoft gun. It isn't a replica of a real weapon, and that just made the decision quite sensible. So I don't want to labour over it because it was really quite a sensible thing to do, and I think it was the right thing to do for us.
I think it's Tom. I've always known that really your heart is in military replicas. So even if like something's brilliant, and I'm going to use one of our guns as a reference here. So Shadow 2, you liked it on a technical level, but because it's not a military sidearm, you don't really want one. You know, and I understand and respect that. You know, you think it's a well-made pistol, but equally you're not going to wear it on your hip because it's not a military or law enforcement sidearm.
No, absolutely, and that kind of sums it up really. I can get excited by the technical stuff. I can get so if someone, for example, ASG brought a product to market which was technically new and had new features and was exciting from an engineering point of view, I can get excited about that. But I can't get excited about just another random key mod 4-end AR clone rifle. It's just not going to fill me with great joy, and then I can't communicate that over the video very well because you'll sense the fact that I really don't care very much about this thing. So yeah, so that's the thing really. Okay, so that kind of leads us to the present day. We started live streaming just after lockdown, which was incredibly scary, and we'll go into that. I've got a question coming up which we'll go into a bit more length about me being terrified, but live streaming's been really ace, and it's been a great way of certainly connecting with the community. You know, it's brilliant. I really enjoy these. Once I get over my initial nerves, I really enjoy the live streams, and I really enjoy seeing the comments coming in from people. Really, it's a really great way of building a community, and I really feel like we're doing that at the moment. How do you feel about that, Gadge?
It's such a different experience, isn't it? I remember when we filmed the original, let's say call them like videos, so to speak. We filmed them, we feel good about them, we go, well, that was quite good fun, or that flowed well, or that one needs a whole lot of editing. And then we'd be waiting for the reaction. You're looking at YouTube comments going, oh, someone said that was a bit boring, or that's got a thumbs down, or everyone loved that one. Now we get that immediate response where you can actually go, it's more, you feel like more of a community, you feel like you're engaging with people. People can go, so what's your view on this? And if you catch it in those comments, you can actually respond to it there and then, rather than a YouTube response 3 days down the line. I actually think it's far more. The idea about the channel originally was about immediacy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think this has got that spirit of immediacy even more so than its origins. So I love it personally.
Yeah, I think I will probably do more of a live focus going forward. It will probably be I'm never going to stop making cool videos, but I can focus on the stuff I really enjoy. And actually, some of the stuff we've done previously, we've had to cut short. We haven't been able to have a full discussion because we're trying to keep the video below around 11 minutes for YouTube, because YouTube likes videos about 11 minutes. Yeah. And actually now we can have a longer and properly framed conversation about a more sensible subject. So I think some of the stuff, and I'll probably do this. I'll look over the back catalogue and we'll reshoot, or we'll go live for some of the topics that we've talked about before, but we've had to be a bit more condensed and edit quite heavily.
Yeah. I definitely agree, Tom. I think there are some things we touched upon where, like, you and I could talk for hours about, let's say, AKs or Soviet combat gear or whatever. And in the past, we had to chop out so much interesting stuff. But when we've done things like AK versus AR with Phil or Op4 with Sean, we've actually been able to really get into it, explore it, come up with ideas, change your opinions even in the middle of things. Which you can't
like Phil.
really do. Yeah. Phil conceding defeat,
But he's probably going to kill me now. So there's stuff like that. I mean, there's going to be some commercial realities of this channel's largely funded by me, and I can't quite keep carrying on throwing money at it. So, but there are plans afoot. Certainly the channel will remain entirely independent, and I'm going to basically use my filmmaking gear and knowledge now to make stuff for other people, and that's how we're going to fund it. So I think that's the model. The channel will remain independent, and I'll leverage my knowledge and my gear and my stuff in other ways, which is great. Which means we can leave the channel as it is.
See, one thing I've always liked, Tom, is that obviously you're an engineer from background, and I'm an event organizer and a journalist, and you see stuff reviewed on other people's channels or on other people's live streams, and they'll go, "Oh, it's got a metal body, it's got a plastic receiver, plastic stock," and what metal is it? Tin foil? Is it aircraft aluminium? I don't fucking know. Is the plastic? Is it ABS? Is it a nylon sort of like Kevlar weave? Who knows? But you'll actually go into those, and I think very few people have got that perspective on airsoft that you have, which I think is quite refreshing.
Yeah, it's weird, and I've looked at I think a lot of people come from a media background. So if they've got media training or something, they'll do airsoft stuff. Or if they work in media in some way, they might do an airsoft channel. A lot of people, you see a lot of people reading spec sheets off, which is I find I just turn off straight away. It's quite difficult. So for me, I spent 16 years in design and about 10 years as a product designer and a senior product designer. So yeah. And a lot of dealing with Far East as well, dealing with Far East manufacturing, and it directly applies to a lot of the. Although I have not worked in the airsoft industry as a designer, I've used to work for Games Workshop designing plastic things and tools and cases and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's quite an interesting perspective, and I want to know a bit more. People tell me what it's made of. People say polymer rather than plastic because I think it makes them sound more intelligent, or it makes them sound more knowledgeable, and it's just not.
It's a very quick question, Tom, actually, that links into this. James C. asks us, why don't we do merch? Weirdly, we have a very limited amount of merch that you can only have if you come and do a show with us. I
will do some. It's just a question of time. It's also a question of confidence on my part, something we'll talk about a lot in a bit. Literally, it's if I do merch, will anyone actually buy it? It's literally a confidence. It's probably more than anything else, it's a confidence thing on my part. But it's something I want to address. So yeah, look out for it in the next few weeks. Probably a couple of months. There is one patch which has gone out to people that have helped and contributed to the show, which is the 30 OBU patch, which a lot of people, there's about 30 of those in existence that people have that have driven us, helped us, filmed with us, let us use facilities, and all that sort of stuff. So let's move on to what did and now what does our filming setup look like now. So when we started, Gadge, we really, as we kind of touched on, we really didn't have much gear at all.
Crazy, wasn't it? I mean, we realised quite early on, I think, that iPhones, and we're both iPhone users, have amazing film quality to them, but you need a microphone, you need an external mic. So a lot of the early videos are very quiet, or there's a lot of wind, or there's clipping. Again, when we started, I mean, I DJ in my spare time, and I laptop DJ now, regrettably, because you have to these days. And I had a MacBook Air for it, and we started using my MacBook Air. But even for very simple videos, that was pushed to its capacity, as Tom will probably explain more. Yeah,
so we started off with, say, the family DSLR, which was a Nikon 3100, I think, which had a 10-minute recording limit. We'd only film in 1080p at the most, and we were using the internal mic. Which was terrible, but I mean, neither of us being filmmakers had no idea. So if I was to say any advice to anyone who wants to start a YouTube channel, certainly if it's a kind of informative sit down or walk around and chat rather than a gameplay YouTube channel, is just use your phone, but buy a mic. We use sort of Rode video mics was the first thing we bought.
An iMovie, didn't we? We used iMovie originally.
Yeah, built-in app. Your built-in apps in your whether it's the built-in one in Windows or certainly iMovie is more than capable. These days, actually, you can generally edit on your phone anyway and upload straight to YouTube. So you really don't need much. JJ Moore in the comments. I talked to a while ago, so he's approaching 1,000 subs. Well done, JJ. You're growing really fast, mate. That's brilliant. But also, I talked to him about cameras. Just using. He was asking me about cameras. And I said, if you've got decent quality phones, just use your phones. It's absolutely fine.
1,000 subs is great. I mean, I remember when we got excited about 100 subs, Tom. I remember when we were in the pub that day and we saw, we've got 100 subs, and we were really excited. And I think that once you get past that first couple of 100, you build exponentially, and the word spreads. The hardest thing is that up to that first 1,000, I'd say.
Well, we were helped a lot by, a bit of an aside, we were helped a lot by Airsoft Jonathan, Airsoftology, who gave us a shout out.
Yeah, it's great.
I remember we had like 120, and I woke up the next day and we had 400, and I was like, whoa, what? Yeah. So we started the family DSLR. We were doing a shoot at the jail, I think it was. We were doing our first big range test. It's episode 15, and we started filming selfie cam on our phones when we were being shot at by each other. And then I got back, stuck all the stuff in, and into the iMovie and realised that the quality coming out the phones was better than the quality coming out the camera. At which point, well, okay, fine. Well, let's just carry on the phones. And right up until now, pretty much 2 weeks ago, I've been using either an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 7 or my partner's iPhone 8, and that's all we've used. Which some people will probably find a bit mental, but literally we've been using iPhones. I've got even when I do scope footage, that's an adapter shooting down a scope, and my phone's attached to it.
Thing is, Tom, you see news journalists using iPhones now to do immediate shooting. Sometimes it's crazy. You know, it's so good.
Well, you can shoot 60. You can I think you can shoot 60 frames a second, 4K now, on a phone, which is just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. If you're doing cinema, and there's been short movies shot on iPhones and movies shot on iPhones. Really, really good. I'm just having a look at the comments as we're talking. So, and I've literally just bought another camera. So we'll go into that in just a second. I'm going to show you around my live streaming setup.
Tom, another thing I should mention very quickly that was a massive hurdle for us when we started off was actually music, because having a theme tune that wasn't performing rights owned by someone else, and iMovie has its own little songs that you can use, but other people have them, and actually trying to find something that fitted the channel was difficult, really difficult.
Well, we used the song, I think it was the original theme tune was Bright.
Right, yeah.
Which was one of the inbuilt, I think it was some GarageBand, but it's one of the inbuilt stuff from iMovie, which is why some people went, I've heard that before. Yeah, you've probably heard it everywhere on people's home movies. But we were just going through it and we thought, oh, that's great. Now I now use Defcon 3 by Renoised, which was a band you were in, Gage.
In that band for 2 years, yes.
So, which is really cool. So thank you.
I wrote half that song.
so thank you very much for that. So that's the kind of the shorter
Rammstein-y sounding bit.
Yeah, that we use now is that. But actually, I really like Bright. Some of it. It was time. It was time to move on.
But it's one of those problems. What I'm trying to mention, I think, Tom, is that it's very tempting to use incidental music of something you think is really cool, you like, but actually you could have your entire video or channel pulled down because you're using somebody else's copyright.
There's quite a lot of free music. A lot of the stuff I use now, I've used now, comes from the YouTube library. YouTube have a massive library of there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of songs, and you can pull from that and use that. Just use that. There's subscription services, there's all sorts, but literally the YouTube audio library is huge. So I've been using quite a lot of that. I was doing some adverts recently, and I literally spent a day going through weird electronic music stuff for that kind of thing. A couple of people talking about cameras. Jay, your phone has a fantastic camera. It's also super easy to use because it does everything for you. And unless you've got some film training, having just a camera you can turn on and just point at something and it's all in focus and it works and the depth of field is fine. If you want to get some cinematic effects, yeah, fine, you'll need to get actually even a less expensive camera, but your phone will do 95% of what you need it to. JJ Moore again. Well, editing software. I would go, if you're used to iMovie, JJ, go for Final Cut because it's basically the same program. iMovie's like a handicapped version of Final Cut.
I mean, didn't we find, Tom, that Final Cut allowed us to do things like, so I think iMovie allowed us to have 2 audio channels, so we could have a music track underneath the actual vocal.
You can only have, I think you can only have 3 things in the stack.
Yeah.
In iMovie, and obviously Final Cut you can have millions, and there's all sorts of other stuff you can do that you can't do in iMovie. iMovie's absolutely fine. We could probably quite happily carry on with iMovie, but Final Cut's really quite useful.
I think what's worth noting, Tom, is a very early video we did when before I joined ASG. We were allowed to see the 2018 Evo, and our colleague Ben, my colleague Ben and our friend Ben did a 2-minute video of the Evo 2018 and edited it on his iPhone while we were filming. And it was really snappy and punchy. It was like about 1 minute 45, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Had a great soundtrack to it, loads of video effects on it, and he did it literally standing there in the corner on his phone.
Yeah, he did it on iMovie on his phone. Yeah.
It's incredible.
So you can do amazing things. So really, if you want to get into a YouTube channel, I would recommend buying a mic, and a tripod and a phone holder.
And a gimbal.
The gimbal's fun, but you don't need it. But just a mobile phone to tripod adapter, any sort of tripod, and Rode do like, I think Video Mic Go or something along those lines. It's like a 50 quid, $50 microphone. It will completely transform your audio. I now use some other stuff which I'll show you in just a minute. Final Cut. Same thing, JJ. So JJ's asked, is the difference between Final Cut and Final Cut Pro? It's the same thing. I'm just shortening the name. Great. Okay, so what does our filming setup look like now? It still really looks like a couple of phones on tripods, though I have another camera which I'm going to show you now, hopefully. So this is what I'm using to stream. I got into streaming, as I said, about 2 months ago. It was a really heavily learning process, and I'll just show you how everything got a lot easier. Right, so this is my current. This is what I'm looking at right now. It's a bit jerky because this is coming over a Wi-Fi signal rather than a wired connection. And as it freezes, yeah, great. Let me just come out of that and come back in again. Technology gadge.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Here we go. Okay, so this is jerky because it's over the Wi-Fi rather than being wired. So I'm just upgraded to a new camera. This is my new camera. This is a Panasonic G7. It's actually about, the model's, it's a new camera to me, but the model's about 4 or 5 years old now. But it's a proper kind of DSLR. The mic, my main mic, is a D80D3. We use that a lot for filming. It's got a dead kitten on it for wind noise. That's coming in via HDMI out to an Elgato. These things are like gold dust because of lockdown, so all the broadcast journalists and everyone else is using them. And these convert your camera feed into a webcam feed for your computer. So the software we're using is Mac only, unfortunately, and it's called Ecamm Live, and it is brilliant. There is free software like OBS and loads of other paid services. This just runs natively on Mac and is incredibly useful. So you can see your own comments coming in. I've got another light just to add a bit of light, and this is my really high-tech diffuser, which is some tracing paper. That's my 3D printer. That's been getting a bit of a battering recently. And I'm completely out of ports at the moment on my Mac, so I'm going to have to find a solution because I'm running out of spaces to plug things in. And you can, and this is the highly technical solution because I can't use my monitor and all the cameras at the same time. So currently I have a I have the running order taped to my monitor. So I'm gonna get a hub which will handle the because I've got a plug which will handle the Ethernet and the power and a few other things all at the same time, which will make life a bit easier. I've also got my main phone on a Rode microphone stand for an overhead camera, which we're going to use in a bit. That's a sign I stole from the Tour de France. And the rest of the room, this is our workshop in the garden, and it's my partner's sewing room. Come on. Yeah, this is my iPhone 7 I'm currently using to do this. And the Wi-Fi outside in the garden is clearly not very good. So this is my partner's sewing room that I've half taken over now. So there you go. How does that look, Gadge? It's all a bit.
That was fragmented, shall we say?
Yeah, sorry about that, but that's one of the things I'm using.
So I know I share this is my office I'm in at the moment, because I'm on furlough at the moment, so my wife's working from home, and she keeps moving things that are really important to me, like night vision and guns and stuff like that. But she needs it more than I do, so I'm going to forgive her.
Yeah, so this is. But bear in mind, this is all stuff I've put together over like 2 years. None of it is a necessity. So, and I'm still getting to grips with the actual proper camera rather than just sticking a phone on. You need to you need to actually do stuff rather than just like pressing record. And which is a bit hilarious. Right, so there you go. So that's kind of. But if you do have a Mac and you want to stream, I'd highly recommend eCab. It is a paid service, but it just makes life so much easier. And then I bring guests in via Skype, and it turns up as an extra camera, which is brilliant. So I can control Gadge. Now I can't control Gadge, but it's really easy and convenient to use. The other thing I should shout out is I stream to YouTube and Facebook at the same time using a service called Restream. Graham Hoffman from Airsoft Nation is letting me use his account at the moment. So big thank you to Graham, Airsoft Nation. Thanks for that. It's made a big difference. Really appreciate it. So that's the workshop, which really is a workshop that's been made. And I've only recently moved in here. It's made quite a big difference actually having him. I used to work at the dining table or in the front room with the dogs. I think the dogs are missing me a bit, but other than that, it's been really good. I've got loads of stuff done. So on to Gadge. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Viewer questions. Number one from our good friend Stu Mortimer.
Yep.
I'm reading off my really high tech monitor at the moment, with a bit of paper attached to it. What beard grooming products do you use, if any? Now, your luxurious beard, Gadge, has disappeared recently.
Mate, I'm not joking. I mean, like, do you know the last time I was on live stream for the Op4 with you? I shaved this morning, and I probably had again the start of a decent beard in a week. It was ridiculous. So I personally use really good razors. Because the thing for me, if I'm honest, right, is that I don't mind having a beard, but it's not that important to me. But I do a lot of historical airsoft and reenactment articles and that sort of stuff. So if I'm doing a photo shoot of 1969 US Army Vietnam kit, I've got to shave because it just looks stupid with a beard if you're doing it for a living history article or for a photo shoot, you know. So yeah. I'm not. If I do use beard grooming products, I've got some beard oil, which is quite nice. But you know.
So my beard currently. So I actually shaved, just trimmed mine this morning. I use rarely. I will point out. Actually, I shall go to my overhead camera. Ooh. If I can find it. There we go. This is my headphones. So I use Brighton Beard Company Beard Balm and their hog bristle brush. This is really good actually. So, you know, your beard gets a bit itchy. You can use that, and their beard oil as well. Not sponsored. Someone told me to get them in the pub. You know Tall Tom from Tapped, Gadge?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he uses.
He's
so
also an airsofter.
So I was like, okay, I'll give that a go. So yeah, so that's generally, Stu, I don't bother though, and then it gets to a point where you can't see my lips, and then I get shouted at, or not shouted at. I don't get morning kisses, so then I clearly need to need to sort it out. So I do. So what I'd like to do, so kind of almost the main crux of today's show is going to be the questions from Mark Courier from Thin Brown Line YouTube channel, and I think they're really interesting. I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier already. So he has a two-part question. Number one of which is, do you ever get really nervous when you're about to start filming, especially live streams? So, Gad, you know me quite well. What would your answer be to that question?
Well, behind this facade of professionalism, Tom and I are literal balls of anxiety. So we're both as bad as each other. We can be dead confident one day, and other days we don't want to leave the house. It's just the way we're wired. You know, it's just the sort of people we are. And now for a live stream, I know Tom and I both have a warm-up beer beforehand, which like oils things a little bit. But in the past, there have been times where I've rang up Tom in the morning and gone, dude, I can't do a video today. Or he's gone, do you know what, I'm feeling really miserable, I can't be arsed with it. And it's hard to be convincingly enthusiastic about something you want to be passionate about if you don't feel it. So I think you owe it to the people watching what you do to either suspend it or do it another time, or because if you're not passionate about what you're talking about, no one else is going to buy into it, you know?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I've talked about it before on the live streams, but I've been diagnosed with clinical depression for the last 10 years, and I also have general anxiety disorder. So So some days for me are a complete nightmare. I can barely get out. Sometimes I can't get out of bed, or I can't leave the house, or I certainly can't come on camera and start talking to people. Been a lot better the last few years, but it's still sometimes I can't do it. I just can't do it, or I can't film, or we're planning to go and film at Thurleston, or we're planning to go and film at a site, or even planning to go and play Gadge, and I've had to phone you up and go the night before and go, I literally can't do it.
I think it helps in that most of your regular guests, myself included, are also your friends, so that like it's not too hard, because it's quite forgiving. Then it's not like you're going to be having a sort of like a interrogation session online or whatever. But equally, I mean, we've both done it, Tom, where we've been able to say, look, I can't play today, and it's been gutting because we've been meaning to do a review of a site or go and look at an event, and either my back's bad because I've got a spinal injury and I can't drive that day, or you're not in the mood for filming because your anxiety or whatever. So I think the answer to that one is if we can weather the storm, we do, but quite often we just go, sod it, do it another day. It's airsoft, it's a hobby, it's not life or death.
Yeah. It gets easier with experience. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Live streaming is a lot easier for me now than it was. I had some very nice comments from some people a while back saying how professional I looked. I was a bit surprised. I always underestimate myself. I'm not that I'm a negative person, but I'm quite pessimistic, and I always want to improve and get better. So I never kind of see myself in particularly glowing or positive way, really. And it's I find praise. I get quite uncomfortable when people give me praise. I'm like, oh. It can be really quite odd sometimes. Live streaming, I almost find live streaming easier. Actually, might sound a bit bizarre. I find live streaming a bit easier than filming, almost because with the live stream you can make mistakes and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I remember when we did the first ever videos, Tom, and we had. Kind of ideas of things we could say as almost like not catchphrases, but things to do in a pattern between us, and like fucking them up over and over again till you get them right. Whereas actually, when you're having a discussion with people who are your contemporaries and your peers who you respect and you like, and that if you say the wrong thing, like again, I'm not just jokingly with Phil and I arguing about AKs and ARs, whereas the reality is we both like both. But when either of us accidentally say AK instead of AR, and the other one gently ribbing you about it, and it wasn't like the end of the world that you got like the wrong rifle name. It was just clear that we were just having a bit of banter.
It's nice. Rob Davies has said we're all a massive bunch of geeks, and there's no one else I'd rather socialise with. And I think one of the things about live streaming, which has been really nice, is I feel like I'm talking to my peers, and I am talking to a bunch of mates in a pub. It's actually quite a relaxing environment. But there are some days I don't want to do it, and it's really quite scary. But it is scary. I mean, the thing that scared me the most about live stream was the tech. Really, it was getting it all. It took me 3 or 4 days to vaguely work out what I was doing. And you'll probably notice every time I've done a live stream, something's changed. I'm using these overlays now, which are a bit more convenient and look a bit more professional. But it's super. And I quite enjoy the challenge of getting better and doing things better. Hence why I bought the camera, because I felt like I wanted to do some slightly more cinematic stuff, or at least just get more exciting shots. JJ's made a really interesting point about negative comments can really mess your day up. Yeah, it can. A weird negative trolly comment on a YouTube video. That can be really nasty.
We were super sensitive when we started out, weren't we? I mean, I remember the first couple of videos, like you get like 5 or 6 ones, oh, nice video, where did you buy that from, whatever, and then you get someone go, you guys suck or whatever, and it would ruin my day. And do you know what? I'm a 45-year-old guy. I'm an ex-professional soldier, right? And it ruined my fucking day having someone told me that I was shit on doing a YouTube video. You've got to have a bit of a thick skin for it, and unfortunately, Tom and I don't have thick skins.
I just tend to delete them. If they're sensible comments and someone's got a sensible, I tend to, I'm 43. I tend to like a properly formatted question or comment, not like you suck. Hi Tom, I was watching your new recent video and I noticed that you said this. I did some checking and in fact it was this and fine.
Facts not fiction.
Facts not fiction, exactly. You're a complete idiot is not helpful, it's one of those things. So I'm very happy for constructive criticism, but if people start making abusive comments, I'm just going to delete them. I really don't care.
What I always find really funny, Tom, is like every video we've done since day one has always had the same one negative thumbs down. I don't know if that's literally a one random person for 100 and so videos, or it's one person who just automatically has subscribed to us and dislikes us on principle. If you are Mr. Thumbs Down, tell us and we'll send you a patch.
Or at least just tell me why you're thumbing down on my videos. I'll quite happily I'll quite happily take that into account. So JJ, how do I deal with it? I think Will Greenwood, who's a mutual friend, has a really good attitude about dealing with bad negative comments on the internet. He kind of says he kills it with love.
Yeah.
He's just overly polite and happy towards it, or ignores it. Just don't engage with trolls.
Yeah, as long as you stay on factual and not emotive, which is really hard to do when someone's railing against something that you spent time on and you liked what you did. But as long as you can go, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way about this video. Could you tell us why? Then you've got the moral high ground there. And if they go, well, it's because you're a dick, or it's because like you suck. Yeah, I know you didn't like the video, but why do you think I'm a dick, or why do you think it sucks? And if they can't answer them, they fail at the end of the day. And it's like, I'd just like to say, well, put a video up. Let me watch your video.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things I've done before. Is could I see your take on this, please, or could I see your range review, please, or could I see your? Because it's like our BB testing, which I'm going to do. We had to postpone this week for personal reasons, but we're going to do a big live stream with Phil on BB testing and go into why we do what we do, because it is pseudoscientific. It's not scientific testing. We'd need a lab and we'd need calibration. We need all that sort of stuff. But we get results that we're happy with and we're happy enough to talk about, and I think that's the important bit. And we've had criticism for our range tests, and most of it is legitimate. It's like, yeah, it's not. Yes, we could do things better.
And we get results that are applicable to an airsoft game at the end of the day, because people don't fire in windless static laboratories. You know, they fire on a field with a little bit of crosswind in a gun that's been fired 3 or 4 times before. It's not fresh out the box.
There's some great comments about the thumbs down guy. Sorry, Gage, I'm just going to...
Yeah, he's not got a beard.
So the Thin Brown Line says even a thumbs down is still interaction. Absolutely true. It means they've clicked on your video, they've watched it, and they've thumbs it down. Crew Gaddy says the thumbs down could be an Aussie. And Sean, who has a quite terrifying beard at the moment, thumbs down guy is the guy that can't grow a beard. Yeah, quite possibly. So I think that's one of the ways of. But yeah, I still take it to heart. I just want to know how to get better. That's the thing with me. If someone has an issue with my stuff, how can I make it better? That's actually getting better at something is something I find very motivating. How do I make a better video? How do I make a better live stream?
There's a comment there from JJ, Tom, and I think it's interesting actually how much work goes into a 10-minute video. So, for example, when we did 2 videos a week in the origins at the start of the channel, that was 2 days filming or 2 half days filming of literally prep and hours of time of prep and filming to get condensed to 10 minutes, and then Tom was sweat blood editing for the day after. So my part of it really, originally we tried to edit together, and you can't do it.
You end up arguing, don't we?
Decisions by committee don't work, you know.
Can you move that? Shut up, Gadge, go away.
So Tom would edit it. I'd view it and go, yeah, it's wicked, mate. And literally, I would never have to say, can you change this? Because Tom's got a good eye for it. But the point being is, like, a 10-minute video was probably 2 guys worth of work over 2 days when we started off. Now Tom's got a lot slicker. I'm not as hands-on as I used to be.
All that happens though is you just end up doing more complicated things. so the editing time. So let's say the recent SEMA range video, that was 1 hour drive, 3 hours filming, 1 hour drive, and then it was that was about a 6 hour edit.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 5, 6. You're looking at 12 hours. 12 hours worth of effort for a 10-minute video.
And it's the same with a lot of recorded stuff. I mean, again, going back to the song we used as a short thing, that Renoise track that I worked on, I think that probably took us a day to record, and it's 3 minutes long. You know, I mean, that guitar part on it, I actually played that 8 times. There's like eight entire tracks that sound like one. I mean, the editing is a difficult bit, and I tried to explain that to a colleague once, who said, "Why does it take so long to do videos? You know, they're only 1 minute long or only 3 minutes long." I'm like, "That's not how recorded stuff works."
Almost to an extent, though, the shorter it is, the more work it needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I'm doing a 10-minute video, I might cut 5-6 times. With a 1 minute video, I would probably cut 20 times and need 20 shots, all of which need to be cued, framed, and everything else. And then you need a shitload of other stuff in order to do it. So even a 1 minute video, if I was to do a 1 minute advert, for example, that would probably take twice as long as a 10-minute. Just if you and me were just sit in the kitchen and waffle about some pouch.
Yeah.
That even though it's 10 times longer, the 1 minute video is probably 10 times the work.
Because you've got to condense everything. You've got to make sure that every single second in that 1 minute is effective.
Yeah. You can't have any dead air, and you can't have any dead air, and you can't have any exciting time. Some of the easiest stuff to edit is the ration reviews.
Yeah, because just having dinner.
And just sit there and cut stuff out. You just condense it. But yeah, so that can be really intimidating. So kind of people's criticism, I don't know. It doesn't really matter how much work you put into it. It should, but people's opinion. I think people should probably be a bit more appreciative of. Maybe there should be like a work factor you put in or something. But it's like, yeah. So certainly. I still get nervous. I get nervous every time. My partner will tell you I get nervous every time we go and film, whether it's live stream or I was bouncing around the house for 2 hours earlier before this. And one thing you'll notice if you watch my live streams, I get my speech at the beginning is much faster because I've got more adrenaline and I'm less and less under control. As the more we get into it, my rate of the amount of words per minute that I speak drops as I get less nervous.
Yeah. I know when we started doing things, I'm quite an enthusiastic guy about a lot of things, and I speak very quickly.
And I do too.
A lot of people say to me, "You're so fast," especially people who've got English as a second language, because I work for a Danish company. And again, I try to moderate what I do, but again, there's a bit of adrenaline, a bit of excitement, and I sometimes watch the live streams back, and I'm going, "Oh, God, slow down," and it's so hard to do because in my head, I am slow right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm talking deliberately slowly now, but actually I would normally talk about this fast. So it's difficult. It's very difficult. I still get nervous. I get nervous the night before we go filming. I get nervous the day before we live stream. I'm probably really irritating around the house.
Review, I can't sleep the night before. Sometimes
I'm the same.
I'm driving to events and I've had 3 hours sleep. And obviously I'm safe to drive, so I'd never drive if I wasn't. But I'm not as... It's not... I've rested. I've been lying on my back in bed all night, my eyes closed. But I can't sleep because I'm worrying about, have I got all the kit packed? Is it going to be good weather for tomorrow? Are we going to drive over to Dorset and then find out we can't film because there's a thunderstorm? All those little variables play on my mind because I overanalyze stuff.
I'm the same. I very rarely... I'll probably get a few hours sleep before an Airsoft game or event review or something, but I very rarely sleep a lot. Cool. Okay, so Mark has a second part to his question. When you lack the get up and go to film, like many of us, how do you overcome it? I don't. Is the short answer. Yeah. I have tried to struggle through previously, and it doesn't work very well. I don't know how you feel, Gadge, but that's certainly...
No, honestly, Tom, I mean, we've actually... Nowadays, we've got the honesty with each other just to cancel events. I know we went to one event, which was a charity event. It was a great event, great reason to do it, but Tom had been up all night with a bit of anxiety. My spinal problem had been playing up, so my wife ended up driving for us to get there. And I had a miserable day. Tom didn't have a great time. I think we spent most of the time in the safe area watching people play. And we'd have been better off just sacking it off and going to another one. But we didn't want to let each other down. It was only when we were in the pub later on that day and went like, "Oh, I didn't want to let you down, mate." And you were like, "Oh, I didn't want to let you down either." And it was like, brilliant. I only went there because you wanted to go.
I only went because you wanted me to go. I was like, Crew Gadley's Gadgy. I can't. That's not nerves subsiding, that's you're getting drunk. Yes, absolutely. But I think, one, I like beer. Two, what I would normally be doing with my mates is going to the pub. So a lot of the live streams for me are what I would be doing in the pub with my buddies talking about Airsoft over a beer. So
I also think... Yeah, sorry, Tom.
No, no, go on, Gad.
Yeah, I also think that conversation, there's a reason like alcohol's a social lubricant, especially for live streams. So when I used to do a lot of LARP, we used to refer to beer as role play juice. Because actually standing in a field and talking about what your character's going to do or whatever to a total stranger is really difficult to do unless you've had like a can. And then I found it a lot easier. Equally, even though I'm normally talking with friends, having had a drink beforehand, and like, I sound like a right alcoholic now, I guess, but having had a beer beforehand just makes me slightly less anxious. That's probably just me, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd recommend alcohol as a social lubricant for people with social anxiety. But there you go. But it's one of those things. So the other thing we do, Mark, is we film in blocks. Not so much at the moment, but when myself and the co-host or the guest that comes to my house and we film, because we don't have a studio. So it's quite funny. People sometimes think there's a AATV studio. It's literally the back of the kitchen.
That's an illusion we spent ages trying to create, Tom, and you're just ripping it down now.
Literally the back of the kitchen, and the table we're on is the dining table, rotated like 45 degrees. So it really is. People go, where'd you get the expensive lights from? That's called the sun.
I remember very early videos before we had any lighting at all. We could only film in really tight windows, and I remember in winter I'd have to come around your house at about maybe 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, between 1 and 3 we had good light.
Yeah,
because you want diffuse light, so you need the light when it's not directly in, and yeah, mental. What is? So we film in blocks. So I'd have Gads around, and we'd literally film 3 or 4 episodes at once. You can kind of see because we've got the same T-shirts on. But at one point we would change tops and hats, and then we kind of gave up doing that.
Yeah.
I'll bring a couple of tops around, and we'll just shoot in a block. And I do the same with Phil when Phil comes over.
I mean, these days we only change outfits if it's relevant for the theme. So if we're talking about maybe, I don't know, Vietnam War kit, we might put tiger stripe jackets on or put silly helmets on. Just for the fun of it, you know. But at one point, it was a genuine attempt to make it look like we did it on different days.
And we'd put different stuff on the table.
Yeah,
it was great. I'd probably still do that. I've been asked what my tipple is by a few people. I like craft beer. I used to be a real ale man. I've now turned into a real poncy hipster craft ale drinker. I also like a bit of whiskey, single malts. But yeah, I think filming in blocks. I think my advice would be, if you lack the get up and go, don't push yourself because it won't come across as genuine. It will come across as forced. And then when you do feel like it, film. Just film a sensible amount. Don't go mad and try and film for 12 hours because you'll get exhausted. But try and get 2 or 3 in the can, and then you've got a bit of backup. And that's literally it. The other thing, I guess, is try and find something you're excited about, because if you're just doing, it's very hard to be convincing when you're not excited about a topic. Hence why, we talked about it earlier about, well, I don't want to do reviews on guns I don't care about, because how am I supposed to be convincing when I don't care about it? Find something you're
since the start, hasn't it?
Yeah, find something you're passionate about. I can find it quite easy to get annoyed. I just pop on some general Facebook groups and get annoyed at the absolute tripe being talked about by people. And generally, I can find a nugget from that. What are people talking about? And then you try and spin it into a vaguely. But I don't like being overly negative, so you can try and spin it into a positive thing.
I mean, I'd just touch on that a minute, Tom. It's like one thing for me when we did this is like I'd get motion sick watching people's gun cam for a start, and I literally can't stand watching. This is my 10 best sniper kills videos, or watch this kill streak in CQB. It leaves me cold. So I've never wanted to do those anyway. So I think we both felt the same way about that. The only time when, and again, I think we'll touch on this later, sometimes you do stuff that you don't expect to do that you do end up liking through filming things. But generally speaking, being passionate about stuff is the key. So that's why I think the channel's had a big sort of like a big emphasis on sort of like the technical aspects of Airsoft and the kit aspects of Airsoft, because that's our passions.
Yeah, I agree. I'm probably more into, because we both come from modelling. We come not when I say modelling background, I don't mean like we're male models. We both like toy soldiers, right? and tanks and planes and spaceships and all that kind of stuff. So owning a replica of a thing which we think is cool is quite a big driver for me. And I like firearms. We've talked about it a lot in some other live streams. And I like I like collecting stuff. I like the hunt. So I like generally relatively obscure things because it's harder to find, which sounds a bit daft, but there you go. I think just find something you're really passionate about. I think that's the most important thing. If you're not passionate about it, people won't buy into you, and you don't come across as genuine. And I think there's so much falsity on YouTube and social media that just be genuine, and you won't enjoy it either, because for most of us, there may be some money in this. This isn't my. I'm supported by my partner. This is a part-time endeavour. I no longer work full-time. This is largely what I do, but it's not a money-making enterprise, and I highly doubt it's ever going to be a well-paid job. So you've got to be passionate about it. Otherwise, why do it? You know, if you're not talking about stuff you really care about, you just won't come across very well. I think so. That's yeah. So that's what I would do. I would film in blocks when you're motivated, and I would find stuff you really care about. And do you know what? Even if it's really obscure, it doesn't really matter, because YouTube is so vast. There'll be an audience for you.
British Army ration packs.
The ration packs are like the worst stuff on the channel in terms of views, but it's actually the stuff I enjoy filming the most. So of course. And it's just one of those things. I really enjoy filming them. I generally I used to have a little bit of a hobby before I did YouTube on just buying random ration packs anyway and eating them, because it was just interesting. And Tom, so now we film them.
Tom, I'm going to be back in 1 second. I'll be with you in a moment, okay?
Okay, mate, no probs.
Yep.
So I'm going to go on to another question from Matthew Comben. So, provided that lockdown is still in effect when you hit 3,000 subscribers, which it is, what can't you wait to do airsoft-wise once the lockdown is lifted? I cannot wait to do Gunman's 1990s series. So they're Deltas of Sahud, which is talked about it a lot on the stream. It's a LARP heavy in terms of live action role play, players versus crew. So there aren't two sides in the game. There's paying players, and then there's people playing the crew, and the crew are very much playing roles and providing a really good experience for the players. And that's run by Gunman, and it's set in 1990s, so the kit's relatively obscure and retro-like. I'll just fill Gadge in what we're talking about. So, Gadge, sorry, mate. I'm just answering a question from Matthew, which is. So, provided lockdown is still in effect when you hit 3,000 subscribers, obviously, which it still is, what can't you wait to do airsoft-wise once the lockdown is lifted? And I was just telling the viewers that I really want to play Gunman's 1990s game, because we've missed one because of lockdown already. It's my absolutely favourite thing in airsoft to do.
One. I've heard good stuff about it.
I can't wait to bring you and really annoy some of our good friends, because they love it when we really annoy them.
I think for me it's pretty much a similar thing. Not so much the 1990s, but any of the kind of film sim, historical, interactive, like any game with a story. I'm not that desperate to get in the woods and just shoot people randomly. I'm actually desperate to go and be a GRU Spetsnaz operative in an invasion of Scotland, or to be a US Marine in Kaysan or something like that. You know, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into that relatively obscure kit. I mean, I've got my UKSF plate carrier just sitting just over there. I actually quite like to finish off that and do some training, sort of more training orientated exercises.
I need to build my A1 properly. That end. Yeah, that's.
I'm going to go into my build in a minute. So that's what I want to do. I want to do some. Gadge and I were going to run a game.
White Bear, that'd be great.
And we couldn't, so we'd like to do that. I'd really like to do that, because we had some really good. That was going to be modern. So it was an invite only, not an invite only, but kind of people we knew. But we'll tell you about it, and if we like you might get invited. So that was a modern Russians versus UKSF set in. Was it Moldova, Gadge?
Yeah, so basically we're going to do a game, and the idea being that Moldova is an ex-Soviet republic, and with the Russians being quite expansionist these days, the Russians had done a bit of Ukraine and re-invaded Moldova, so to speak, at the same time where a UKSF unit had been sort of cut off behind enemy lines. It was a three-sided game. lot of high immersion, high kit levels, bit like a milsim, bit like a LARP, not a shoot 'em up at all. But the idea being that it was a game where you could lose yourself for a day, and if you looked at the other side, you could see, oh, they're rebels, or they're Russians, or they're UKSF, and it was going to be like being in a film, you know.
Yeah, so that's what I want to do. I mean, I have been shooting because I've been on a range, so I have shot my guns. Because they're operating under because they can socially distance, and the British Shooting Association has had some quite stringent rules. So that's been great. So I'm lucky. I have been able to play with my airsoft guns and shoot targets, as you've seen. So I don't really and I don't have this. I know 20 years ago when I started playing, I had the itch to shoot people. I don't really have that itch anymore. I like, as Gaj talked, I like themes and trying. What I really like is pretending I'm in a film. That's what I like doing. So that's great. So I'm going to go on to some other stuff, which is kind of like not channel admin, but things that are happening within the channel. And Gaj has almost touched in it already because we've been doing UKSF impression stuff recently, which is putting together UKSF gear and spending vast amounts of time on eBay, if not money, buying random things. So Gaj has been building up an earlier SAS UKSF gun, which is an L119A1, which you just held up for the people. Now hold it up again, Gaj, for a sec.
Yeah, sure. So it's not quite finished yet. I mean, essentially, the back end is a Car 15 type stock donated from you, Tom. Right, sort of had to change the sling loop. The ACOG's not quite right yet.
Gaj, can you pull your mic a little bit away from your mouth, just slightly?
Of course, mate. Sorry,
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. So essentially, we've got. It needs the trades on it. It needs the barrel shortening down, most of all.
We have a plan for that.
But we're looking at sort of, a much earlier A1 build, really. Just because I always like the look of them. It's nothing particularly big or clever. It's a Marui NGRS base on it. Quite a lot of parts that cost more money than sense, really. But apart from that, it's been good fun to build.
Yep. So we've got a plan for the front end. Someone asked earlier about my GHK M4A1. So I shall go to overhead camera. So this is my GHK M4A1 gas blowback rifle. As you may have seen on my social media, it broke, so the hop went. I was actually filming. I was talking about filming on a bad day. I wasn't actually feeling particularly positive about filming anyway. We went to Thurleston and the hop unit broke. Well, actually, it stopped firing properly. I didn't really know what was going on. When I got back, the hop unit had broke following a jam. So the flash from the moulding and the mould lines on the hop arm on the GHK, certainly on this one, was so bad that once the hop was on, it locked down and the hop wouldn't go back up again. Which caused a jam, and then the next BB cracked the hop, which was disappointing to say the least. So I'm quite cross about that because I wanted to bring you guys a range test. However, this is going to form the basis of my UKSF SAS L119A2, which is a slightly more modern version of Gaj's gun. So I'm afraid I'm not going to bring you a completely stock hop video on the GHK because I've been waiting so long to do this. I really can't wait anymore. So I'm going to send this off to LC Engineering Outpost, who are going to do the trademarks, cut the barrel down, do some receiver modifications, and some other little bits and bobs are going to turn down. DeMarco have a smaller diameter bit of stock tube here as well, so he's going to do all that sort of stuff. There's loads of little bits and bobs that I need to do. I've got this is the front rail. In fact, it's not on the real one. It's monolithic, so the rail and the upper are one piece. And the Airsoft, we don't really have that luxury at the moment unless you spend a gajillion. Unless you have a PTW and you spend a gajillion pounds with Heyo, then you can do that. But this is the fore end, certainly for the Airsoft fore end. So this standard cat rail will come off. This front sight block will come off. Barrel's going to be cut down to 10 inches. This is going to go on. I've also got so it won't be this receiver because this receiver's got, ironically, I spent extra money to get the Colt markings. which are gonna. But I've got a spare blank lower, so the blank lower is going to get all the Colt Canada trademarks and everything else put on it. I've already got most of the other bits for it, so the flash hider on this is the kind of correct one at the moment. The rear sling plate is actually a PTS, but PTS Magpul ASAP. I've got this is actually the Heyo one for the PTW, but this is the Colt Canada Ambi mag release. Then I've got I think this is the Angry Gun Ambi charging handle mod on it. So it's going to go off tomorrow actually. So it's going to go off tomorrow for also the grip, and I've got a real Colt Ambi fire selector on this. So this is for real guns. So and then what you then need to do, Rob Davis has pointed out the milliput mod for the receiver. This goes in because it's because it's monolithic. In the real one, as I said, the rail and the upper receiver are one piece. What I'm going to do is use the 3D printer to make up some 3D printed bits to sit here to blend in the upper receiver into the front rail, and then I'm gonna rattle can it, so I'm not too worried about paint finish and everything else. So I'm not going to get it Cerakoted or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just gonna rattle can it when it gets back. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've been waiting to do this for that's pretty much why I bought the gun anyway, to do this. So I've been looking forward to doing this for a very long time. So that's going to go off tomorrow, and it should take about a month or so. Now we can take you back to Gadge. There he is. Surprised him probably.
Hey, you're right.
Hey, you're back, mate.
Yeah, I know. I'm just dreading all the stuff I've got to do on mine. It's getting the trades done. I mean, it's milliputting stuff or green stuffing things, and I remember building an AKSU years ago when no one made one, and the amount of work that went into putting milliput and stuff on the body and then making a new indent, and I'm glad someone else is doing it.
So that's that. So that was some of it, and then obviously I'm going to get I'm probably going to get the TNT hop unit and barrel, just to make life a bit easier because it's all kind of all in one go. That's Rob milliput mod. So yeah, I'm going to 3D print. I'm going to 3D print some little filling pieces. How do you get trademarks put on? So Dan's asked how to get trademarks put on a blank receiver. So this is my GHK.
Illegally is the word, isn't it?
It's fine for personal use. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just don't go selling them, and you'll be fine. So there's a few people that can. There's a few companies that will do it. A few companies I can't off the top of my head. I can't remember them now. Some people will laser trademarks on. Use a deep laser cut. Some people will machine them on. LC Engineering are doing mine. I've just been emailing him today. And there are some other companies around. I think Patrol Base do it. I think Land Warrior have a laser service as well. They may or may not be able to put real trademarks on. You need to talk to them about that. Generally, for personal use, absolutely fine. With the L11, A1 and A2 builds, there's some little weird things you need to do to the receivers to put chamfers on things and cut extra slots and things, and it gets really nerdy, which of course I really like because that's one of the things that I'm into. And then another thing I've been banging on about recently is my retro ARs, Gadge. And you've got one kicking around somewhere.
Dang right.
So that's your M16. Is it? It's an XM, isn't it? Yeah.
It's an XM. So you're looking at the really nice. Well, you can't see that grey on my camera's crap, isn't it? But you can also see the early forward assist. Yeah. Yeah, slightly different there. This is a classic Army. I absolutely love it. I got it off a guy called Frenchie, who's a friend of mine, and it's a bit kind of internally upgraded. So for an older AEG, it still shoots like a beast. I can hit things at 50 meters with complete confidence and reach out a little bit further on a good day.
Yeah, I've got.
But yeah, it's all good.
So I've just got the new SEMA one, which isn't quite correct, but certainly passes. And Gadge, you've talked about it a lot before about the 10-foot rule in reenactment, and As long as it looks fine from 10 feet away, I really don't care. Certainly for airsoft. If I was doing living history, it'd be a bit different. But I don't. So I'm quite happy with a couple of minor errors on the SEMA, on the new SEMA one. So I'm going to go back to overhead cam gauge so you can relax for a bit. So I've got several retro ARs. So this is my GMP 653. You can't buy this. This is put together from parts. So I kind of bought the receiver separately, bought the front end separately. The handguards are from Brownell, so these are carbine handguards rather than the Airsoft ones, which are rubbish. These are much nicer. So this is really quite a sweet gun. Glad you're breathing down the mic. Really quite a sweet gun now. This one is going to be. This is the one we're going to use for the kind of the new hop test gauge. So if you remember the hop test we did when we did the kind of flat hop versus stock hop versus our hop. So Sonic Upgrades have sent me some hops. So I'm going to refilm that better. As we talked about, we had some criticism for that one, but mainly because we didn't have the tech. Now I've got better cameras and everything else and better targets. We can refilm that one. So this is my 653. The six models effectively the kind of the earlier ones, the M16, M16A1, and really they all have a 1 in 12 twist barrel, which for stabilising lower weight rounds. Obviously this is an airsoft one, so it doesn't have a twist in it whatsoever. But this is a really sweet gun. Pop that down. This is another one I've just about finished. So this is another GMP. This is a I'll talk about that in a minute, Dan. So this is a 723. This is a 727. So 727s have an A2 integrated carry handle and a 1 in 7 barrel. Again, in airsoft it doesn't really matter. This is my kind of Black Hawk Down movie gun rather than Black Hawk Down actual gun. Very much patterned on Hoots and Bush's guns from the movie. Hence why I've just painted the kind of the handguards. I've just painted the furniture rather than painting the whole gun. And then this is my mock-up Ops Inc suppressor on the front. And no one makes an airsoft Ops Inc suppressor, so I've done some 3D printing work. So the real one actually screws off. Oh, it screws off. I need to do that. This is where it doesn't screw off properly because I'm a nana. Oh, don't worry about that for now. I need to make sure it's tightened down. But I've effectively adapted a cheap FMA suppressor, mocked up a 3D printed collar, and this suppressor now screws on. This is a 14.5-inch barrel gun, so the suppressor screws on in here rather than screwing on in here. Just need to make sure these are all tightened down. But so this is mocked up to represent a very early Ops Inc suppressor, which is what they were actually using around that time. So this is a 14.5-inch barrel carbine. So the barrel comes to about here, just like the 653. So if we look at the 653, so this is getting niche, but I'm going to brag about it. So the 653, so you can see the barrel would actually end about here, and then the muzzle brake from the 727 to this one, the muzzle brake from 727 is actually held in a plug inside the suppressor, and it screws on. So I thought
you have to grind the bayonet lug off. Oh no, you haven't. No,
not on these ones. No, so they have so they were cut out in the base of I did check, and this kind of collar, which has a taper on it, has a relieving cut in it to put it on. Yeah, so this kind of screws on and off like a real one, which if I can give you a second. Oh, it's a GMP, so it actually goes the real way. And then I've got so this is my GMP 733. So again, I've got the kind of same fake collar on, but this one actually, instead of having a barrel which goes halfway up, this just screws on here. which actually isn't the way it works, but hey, it works for Airsoft, so that's absolutely fine. So I 3D printed the collar, and then I was looking at getting a retro aim point, and they're two. So you're looking at getting an aim point from around the right period, an aim point 2,000 or 3,000, 5,000. You're probably looking at several £100. Whereas this is a clone. This looks pretty similar. This is a clone Comp M2, just like any other Airsoft clone Comp M2, and I 3D printed an end cap to make it look like a really
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, Rob. So this is the custom optic that I was talking about. Let me just pull Rob's comment up. So yeah. So this is a completely standard Airsoft clone aimpoint Comp M2, and I 3D printed this end cap to make it look like one of the older retro AR. I really didn't want to take, even with maybe a Perspex shield or a kill flash on the end. I really didn't want to take this into Airsoft and get it shot out or damaged. You know, they're irreplaceable these days. So God knows really where the. I'm just going to bring you back on camera, Gage. So make sure you're ready.
Yeah, I was going to mention, Tom, actually, because obviously I've got friends who do 3D printing. A lot of war game scenery made by 3D printing, and you're using it to make essential bits for Airsoft kit that you just can't find.
That's it.
And
so
so what I was going to say is, I remember again going back to the AK. Back in the early days of our team, the LFO, I really wanted an AKSU, and no one made one. It's probably about 2001, 2002, and if there was one, I didn't know about it. And I had to buy a Classic Army AK-47S, Tokyo Marui Beta Spetsnaz, a real steel stock from Trapper Industries, and some real steel front furniture, and grind the crap out of it all, milli put things together, and it was a serviceable, decent gun. But I mean, the amount of work that went in, and actually, if someone could have 3D printed me a body or something, I know it probably wouldn't be durable enough, but it would have saved me a lot of money and time.
So this is I have an Ender 3 Pro, which is a relatively inexpensive 3D printer, but you can do a lot with it. It's not doesn't create massively structural parts, but you can do quite a lot with it. But it works really well. So I've been really enjoying it. You know, I used to do CAD for a living, effectively, for Games Workshop and stuff. So now, it's been really quite nice getting back into designing things and making things and doing all that sort of stuff, rather than because it's just kind of part of my life that I really miss. So I'm going to do some more of that kind of stuff. If you want to see some of the various mistakes I've made along the way, I'll just so to make those parts up has involved various prototypes and trying to get the sizes right and everything else right. So I've got like various like 3D prints. I'll go overhead again. So this is all the kind of like these are all the various 3D prints that I've done or have failed, or the prototypes, or got the outer dimension slightly wrong, or the inner dimension slightly wrong, and all this kind of stuff.
And you're printing in black as well, rather than a bright colour and spraying it, yeah?
Yeah. So everything. So all these are in. So the way this system works, Gage, is I've got this collar. You can see it here with this taper on, and that's very close. The real ones were shorter, but I've done this in order to extend the length. And you've got a taper on here. I've got this rear plug here. I'm sure I'm boring everyone, but I really don't care. It's my live stream. This rear plug here has the corresponding taper to mate with that one. And I've taken the original end cap out of the suppressor, and that sits in there. And then inside the suppressor itself, I can take the original flash hider, and that goes into this little plug.
Oh, clever. Yeah.
And then that can then go into the suppressor itself. So that sits inside, and it's quite a good interference fit. Put that outer plug in, and effectively, actually just like the real one, this is how the real ones worked. Not that a thread about halfway down. and then it will just screw on.
So as we've discussed, you could probably do a suppressed A1 without having to cut down an M4.
Yeah, so if you get the right suppressor, I'm just tidying up a little bit. If you get the right suppressor gauge, so the right model, I can then do the equivalent internal suppressor plug, just like the one I just showed you, with the old muzzle brake on, and then we'll do an insert for the back of the suppressor to fit it.
Because one thing I didn't want to do really is chop down a Marui barrel. I'd rather have it as it is. So if I wanted to right now, I could restore my gun to a M4A1 Marui and sell it on, you know?
Yeah, so using that system, we can do that with your gun.
Cool.
So, the 727 breakdown. Did you just miss that, Max, or I just done it again? So that's the way it worked, really. And I can do that for your gun gauge. That took a bit of working out, obviously, but I really enjoyed it. So someone's asked, how long does that take to print? So a part, it depends on the settings you use. English Kiwi's got quite a good video on 3D printing. A part of this size takes about an hour on the settings I use. So that's let me hold this Innocent gun can up in example. So this is like a 330mm can for size thumb. So that takes about an hour, and it's a really relatively inexpensive print. I think the printer was 200 odd quid, and a reel of materials about 20 quid, and that'll last you forever. So, but obviously, and you can print stuff off the internet, or it does help. Obviously, it helps to have a bit of a CAD basis yourself. So that's the way that works. So that's been good fun. I've been trying to work that one out. Obviously, the 733 is easier because it just screws on normally, and there's a bit of a fake bit at the back. But I kind of wanted the kind of proper OpSync sleeve suppressor. If anyone wants one, wants that kit, let me know. PM me, and we can discuss paying for it. It won't be much. Just need to cover materials and printer time. One of the things I want to do, Gadge, is make obscure stuff you just can't buy. Yeah. So stuff, suppressor collars, suppressor conversion.
Little things like, we both like our retro AKs. So a lot of people put a PBS1 suppressor on an AKM or AKMS. Now, what people don't realise, with subsonic ammunition, there's a different set of sights that go on top, and they're really expensive to buy to get real, like old Soviet ones. So if you could do a 3D printed set of like subsonic sights for an AKMS, I'd have a set.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean,
I know a guy with an original set, so
the resolution isn't brilliant on that machine. What I can do potentially in the future is I can design a part and then send it off to a bureau and get parts back. But that suppressor system wouldn't. It's not difficult, and those FMA, the suppressor it's based on. The reason I did it is the suppressor it's based on isn't quite big enough, but it's 20 quid.
Tom, I just have to interject for a second to let JJ know that I'm not drinking warm beer. It's actually in a bucket of ice.
It's very true, actually.
This can is actually freezing cold right now.
There you go, JJ. So we don't all drink warm beer over here. We tend to drink really, really cold craft beer. Certainly me and Gage do. So if you are interested in either an aim point, actually I've got a couple of, not this is a massive sales trip, actually probably, but I've got a couple of aim point back converters ready to go. And if you're interested in that suppressor conversion kit, let me know. I will need to talk to you about and get you to measure things, because, or might need to do a bit of work yourself filing to get it to fit. But message me. If you're a Facebook friend, fine, and if not, message me on the Anvil Airsoft TV Facebook page, and I'll get back to you. We'll work something out. But yeah, it's something I want to do. And if you have some crazy idea for an airsoft part that you don't have, get in touch and we'll try and work it out. I know a lot of the Delta guys want the Anvis battery pack or strobe units or stuff like that. And if you just can't find it, or it's massively expensive, talk to me and we'll work out. We'll do some design. And it's not a really commercial thing. I just really enjoy that problem solving side of things, which I haven't really had the opportunity to do for years. And I'm really just going for another beer, which I'm really enjoying getting into again. So there's another question from English Kiwi. Has running an airsoft channel changed your views of airsoft? Gad, do you want to lead me off while I...
Yeah,
this is a bit mean, but...
Yeah, when we started the channel off, we kind of had an agenda that fitted the magazine, as we said before. So we kind of were going to do video versions of the paper review, etc. But actually, when we started exploring what we wanted to do, there were times when... So for example, Speedsoft as a concept in Airsoft and the culture gets a very bad press by a lot of people. And we were invited along to review a Speedsoft event. And I went there actually going, do you know what, this isn't my sort of thing. I come from a paintball background. I moved out of paintball for the realism that Tom and I both like. But I've got to be objective about this. So we went there and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to be purely objective journalist. And I ended up enjoying the day and it was really good fun. Right, it's not something I've bridged into. I've not bought myself a Speedsoft AG. I've not got myself a dye mask or some Dayglow sort of like padded combats. Actually, I've got a dye jacket somewhere. But the point being is, it did actually make me think about being less partisan and more objective, if anything. So, thinking just because I don't like it doesn't mean that other people won't like it. And obviously, that's always been there as a concept in my head. I'm not stupid, but.
Speedsoft as an activity, I've got like absolutely no problems with. And we talked about this at length. I've got absolutely no issues with Speedsoft at all. I don't think it fits the UK definition of airsoft, but that's a separate discussion we've had loads of times. But it's interesting, and you certainly has with. So there's a two-front thing. Yeah, I agree with Gadget. It leads you to do stuff you would take you out your comfort zone in airsoft. So I've been to events I wouldn't otherwise go to, and I've reviewed stuff I wouldn't otherwise go to, which is quite nice. I don't play very much. I probably play less now. It's the same thing. Anytime you work in your hobby, you end up not doing as much of your hobby as you actually want to do in the first place.
We both work for Games Workshop. But after 5 years at UK Studio, which is not the same as Design Studio, but it's where we did White Dwarf, after 5 years in that department, I was playing World War II rapid fire games and Operation World War II. I didn't play Warhammer, I didn't play 40k because you work with it every day. You don't want to see it. And to a degree, okay, it's not as intense as it was then as a day-to-day 9-to-5 job. But in some ways, like, open days tend to bore the shit out of you after 15 years reviewing them, attending them, trying to say that every site has the most unique things in the world ever, you know?
Yeah, for an open day, I would probably rather be behind a camera, and then do the heavy. Not that I don't like open days. It's just I've done a lot of open days in 15, 20 years of airsoft. So if it's a new site, that's interesting. New structures. If there's new, but going to the same site over and over again and playing the same games over and over again, over the same structures over and over again it gets quite difficult.
Can I just add there, Tom? Rob Davis comments.
Yeah, just
about,
looking at that.
Tawny paintball. Now, Rob, in the very late 80s, early 90s, I played for a paintball site in Stoke-on-Trent called Quest for Combat, of all places. And we played sort of tournament games against other sites, other teams. And I've been part of that paintball thing. And I get it, right? And I actually understand what Speedsoft is about. And I really like tournament Speedsoft. It's really good fun, right?
It's good fun.
Me and Tom played it and enjoyed it.
It's good fun.
My issue is, for me, Airsoft is playing Army in the Woods. And when someone's running around in a high-vis jacket and dye mask and playing for the kill rather than the experience, then to me it stops being about military simulation, law enforcement, and starts being a tournament sport in its own right. And I think it has every respect to be that tournament sport. It's a great tournament sport. It's just not the legal definition of airsoft in the UK.
Yeah, and Rob says himself in his next comment, however, my immersion is spoilt when I'm engaging someone wearing Under Armour thermals and a paintball mask. Exactly, and that's exactly our point. I have no problems with Speedsoft. I think actually I've played it, I've enjoyed it. I think it's really good fun, and for people that enjoy it, it's brilliant. It's just not airsoft, as by UK definitions, and it's as simple as that, really, as far as I'm concerned. I think there's an interesting thing. I think my view of airsoft, and we've just literally just talked about it, has almost got more marginal in the fact that you spend a lot of time reading stuff and looking at stuff and reading law and regulations, and my view on airsoft has got more stringent by running an airsoft channel, and certainly the stuff that I like has got more niche in terms of the stuff that I do, and the stuff that I like has got more niche. But So I think that's affected it. You see more because you film. I'm telling you, it's like when you marshal though, Gadge.
Yeah.
When you start filming airsoft, not necessarily as a player, we've filmed we've done third person filming, so we've covered airsoft, we filmed airsoft outside.
You've done it as a news crew, haven't we? Before
yeah, we've done it you see some really stupid shit.
To give you a good example, Tom, I mean, a guy put a post on one of the forums the other day, and it was about using paint BBs, and he said, "Oh, this will stop people cheating." And I was like, "Do you know what? I've been a paintball marshal, right? If somebody wants to cheat in paintball, paint splats don't stop them. You get hit by a paint splat, you dive to the floor, you crawl along a little bit, and you go, 'Oh, I'm sorry, Marshal, that's a paint splat from a previous game.' I can't prove that's not unless I actually saw it hit them. I can't prove that. Same as you can wear padded jackets underneath your combats. Essentially, you see things as a marshal that players don't see. You know, and that, from an airsoft or paintball perspective, and I think that." Yeah, you're right. You see really gamey shit going down when you're filming that people forget you're filming as well.
There's a couple of comments about speed. I don't really want to get into a speed soft airsoft debate at the moment, so we'll kind of avoid that. We've got quite a lot of content on that kind of stuff in other live streams. If you look at the state of the game, 3-part series, if you want, and you'll really get my views. But yeah, it's kind of you see stuff. I think the point being that the games that we tend to play, Gadge, are played by people that know each other really well. So the gunman stuff and the film sim stuff and the immersive stuff that we play, there really isn't any cheating. And I think cheating is vastly overblown in airsoft anyway. I very rarely see it. It's mostly people not hitting each other and thinking they have.
Exactly. And again, that's the martial perspective you get, where you've seen someone at 50 metres away swearing blind he's hit that guy 3 times, and you're standing next to that guy and you're watching them ping off a branch in front of him, or you're watching them fall short 2 metres ahead of him, because if he can see a 6mm white plastic bearing against the sky at 50-60 metres, he's got better eyesight than I have.
I need a 6-power scope, and even then, shooting at a 60-metre target, I need a spotter downrange.
Yeah.
To dial it in. So.
But again, I think it's two things, isn't it? It's and again, this thing about cheating in cultures of games came up in the same thread I was on about earlier. And one guy from a paintball background said, "Well, we're a smaller crew, so we all know each other, so there's less cheating." And I think that's very true with a lot of the themed and milsim and very immersive airsoft, because the World War II scene, when I was very instrumental in that between about 2005 and 2008, there was probably 300 guys in it, and they all went to the same events, and you see the same 100 guys at 2 or 3 events a year. And you knew that Dave played Africa Corps or Webby played USMC, and if either of them was silly enough to cheat, then just go, don't go to a game he's at, or don't be near him, because he's. And people don't do it because they respect what they're doing too much. The more broad you make the entry level, the easier it is to come along with no investment. And again, that's another chat for another live stream.
Yeah, we'll do that at some point. It'll be interesting.
I think that as airsoft gets easier to get into, people's investment is slimmer. So actually getting thrown off a site and getting banned, I paid 50 quid for an entry level AG. There's 8 other sites I can go to. Why the fuck should I care?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do. I think we'll do a kind of player behaviour live stream. I think that'll be quite an interesting one. Get some people in. Get some marshals in, because marshals. Site owners. Well, I'm working on site owners at the moment. But it's kind of like it's. I think anyone that. I think if you've got a bit of experience in the sport, it will be worth marshalling or shadowing a marshal for a game or two, and just seeing what actually goes down, because it's and filming's even more so because you've got video evidence. It's like, so that kind of changes your perspective. I've really some of this, and I think some of the stuff that I really liked actually over the last couple of years, and I've enjoyed about airsoft, is not airsofting at all. So you talked about we've been in news crew at one of the West Mids JDS. It was JD Airsoft joint events, Gangster City. And we went and larped like mad as a news crew. We had a great time. I had a fantastic time. Nightmare to edit.
Hilarious, wasn't it?
But it was brilliant. And the players were on board, and everyone treated us like a news crew, and it was really good. We just went along to film, and then we ended up investing ourselves into the stories, and the players invested in us as a news crew, and I really enjoyed that.
And again, that was really spontaneous. I think I jokingly, you were filming me, and I announced myself as Ace Cady or something like that.
I was like, yeah, go with it.
Then, yeah, and then you said you were Ventura City News or something like that, and it just spiraled out of nowhere, and it became really good fun. And actually, being in the middle of a firefight when you've just got cameras, I think I had a concealed Makarov wedged
Yeah,
down
we
my
both had
trousers,
concealed pistols, and they were like, just in case. We had to get out for it. But it was brilliant, and it was brilliant. I think certainly I rarely play. I think one of the biggest difference about my views on Airsoft, maybe not my views, but I actually rarely play now. And even if we go and do look at a site, Gadge, generally I might play, you take a camera out, you'll play, I'll take a camera out. We don't really, we get a feel for the site. We make sure we play enough to get a feel for the site and what happens and how the marshals are and what the safety's like. But generally, I'm behind a camera more often, and that's the biggest difference now. Is maybe I'm an Airsoft journalist now. Maybe that's.
And I totally agree.
That's the difference.
I think actually being a journalist is what changed it for me. So for a long time, I was an Airsoft skirmisher, went to a lot of games, did a lot of events. Then I became an event organizer and went to other people's events and went to the similar sort of things. And when I started working for Airsoft International and later Airsoft Action, as you're essentially self-employed for both those publications, I'm pretty sure it's still the case, but it was then, I used to play games because I could get something out of it. And that sounds quite mercenary, but it kind of was. So I'd go to visit a site so I could review the site. Or I'd play a game so I could look at the scenario that was going on. Or I could review a gun while I was there. So there was a bit of a commercial agenda towards everything I did. Now, obviously, I wasn't going to give the site a good review because I was being paid to review it, because I wasn't. I was being paid to review it. I wasn't being paid to say it was good. Yeah. But the point being is, my choice of gaming on the weekend was governed around, I have to do a loadout impression photo shoot, and I have to dress as a Russian Spetsnaz guy, or I have to test out this new AR I've got, or I have to look at this brand new site that's opened that's set underground or something, So there's always if it was just a normal open day in a woodland site, not that interesting. It had to have some reason for me to go there.
Yeah, you've got an agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a commercial interest there,
It's a really interesting point, and I think I think that still carries on with me. To go and the only times I really go and play are at the gunman games. Otherwise, there's another agenda. As you say, I'm testing a gun, or I've got a loadout to film, or I'm reviewing. I don't really review sites. I tend to showcase sites because I think. Essentially, I was watching Graham Hoffman on the Reaper Ops live stream this week, and he was talking about it. And so it's really difficult to review a site because, and you'll know this, Gadge, it's so heavily dependent on the players that are there on the day that it's really unfair.
The marshal team, the weather.
It's really unfair
you could go there to review a site, and there could be a team of 16 guys from a stag do have booked in who are still half cut from the night. They've got past the marshals, they've not noticed, and they're acting like idiots, and they ruin it for everybody. And all of a sudden, that site is rubbish in your eyes. Realistically, you'd have to go there 3 times on 3 different days, with like 3 different groups of people, and it's not in 3 different weather conditions. And it's not going to happen.
No, so you tend to. I'll showcase a site. When I was still writing a lot more for Airsoft Action, I would focus on safety, organisation, and facilities. And then because that's generally fairly constant. Do they run a good game? Are they safe? Is it a comfortable environment to be in? And then the players could be. I've been at sites and there's been 20 visiting players from another site, and it's been awful. But actually, the site itself is safe, it's comfortable, good facilities. So So I think there's been. I think it's a really good question. I think generally my Airsoft has generally changed to there needs to be an agenda for me to play. Or I've got an agenda when I visit a site. I've got another agenda, and that's not nefarious or nasty. There just has to be an agenda for me to visit a site.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, being really brutal about it. I mean, generally speaking, if I play a game because I want to be there, it's going to be a mil sim, a film sim, a World War II game. If I'm going to an open day, it's either because I like the crew who are there, my friends are there. So I play at a site in Staffordshire that I really like. So I like the owner, I like the marshals, I like the site. But I don't go there to shoot people, really. I go there to chat to my mates, and I go there to try out my new gun, or I go out to try out a new loadout or whatever. I might play maybe 75% of the games, sometimes a bit less. But my agenda is actually I'm going to have a day out in the woods with my friends that I like.
Yeah, so very much so. And I've got there's a stream up with our mutual friend Ben Webb, which is about airsoft is more than just shooting, and we go into all of this. But largely it's about, and largely the message that came out of that live stream was that for us it's about friendship and camaraderie and spending time with your friends and just hanging out. And airsoft is almost the excuse.
Yeah.
Slightly more healthy than spending all day in the pub, you know. But
I'm sure golf is the same for a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, but you know, I like firearms. I like military kit. I like planes. I like tanks. I like this stuff. I love it. It's why I've got three largely identical to the normal user retro ARs lying around, but all of them they're all slightly different, and that's exciting for me because I like that kind of stuff. But an airsoft is a context by which I can collect those and use them, and then go and play with them and just go and see what it's like.
Those details, Tom, are fascinating at times because obviously I'm into my historical loadouts and stuff. So I like World War II stuff, and in the World War II British ammo set called 37 pattern webbing, there's kind of World War II issue pouches which have a Preston fastening, and there's post-war ones with like a hook and a tab. And you go to people, those pouches are post-war. I don't mind, but if you want to get some real ones, no one will know that. No, some people do know that, and like to people who do know that, it's great to play airsoft with. But if you want to make it right, do it properly. And most people go like, I'll go and invest in the right ones. Then you get guys going like, well, it's good enough for me, and fair enough, that's good enough for you. It's great, but I actually like things to be spot on whenever possible. You know. That's just the little collector geek in me. Yeah,
you've got that more living history thing than I do. I have it too. That's why I went and built a ridiculous OpSync sleeve suppressor system for a gun, which is just because it's more correct. So yeah, I think, and it's also partly why I like the more retro stuff, because I think it's also a bit easier to not. I'm going into. It can be easier.
Retro has a time frame, Tom. That's the thing.
You're right. It's defined.
If I do 1982 Falklands War Royal Marine Commando, right, then it's always going to be the same, right?
Yeah.
They're never going to change the version of M16 they use. They're never going to change the version of Windpoint
they use. It's a very good point. It's a very definable goal.
Because if I go, I'm going to do FSB Spetsnaz, modern Russian. Every day you'll look at a picture and they're testing a new body vest, they're testing a new pistol, they're testing a new helmet, and it's a constant upgrade cycle. And it's one of the reasons I liked World War II for so long, because once you've got that kit, you're golden.
So I'm going to think about winding up the stream, because we're in that kind of 3 drinks in and slightly rambly phase. Does anyone in the chat have a question for us? As long as it's not like what am best gnu, at which point I'll boot you. But in the meantime, so I think that was really good. Yeah. So I think it was a really good question, and which was as running an airsoft channel changed your views on airsoft. I think it's just led to me needing an agenda to attend a game a bit more than just shooting things. But I think that's also a bit of a symptomatic of being 43 and spending 20 years running around shooting 6mm plastic balls at people.
I also think, Tom, though, it's again what you said about when we work for Games Workshop. It's working within your hobby. So if you work for an airsoft shop, I'm sure it would change your opinion of the hobby. If you work for an airsoft magazine, you work for a YouTube channel, once it stops being something you do on a Sunday with no other motivator other than I'm going to have a laugh with my mates, it changes the way you see things. You know, and we both fell in and out of love with toy soldiers and war games over the fact that sometimes you've got to deal with it and you don't want
to. James, do I watch the Heresy Group videos? Yes. I don't milsim enough to really have an opinion on their stuff. I don't. So they talk about stuff and I don't really have a frame of reference. I haven't done a modern milsim in a very long time. So when they talk about the milsim community or milsim events or milsim gear, I don't really have enough of an opinion. I find it interesting, but I don't really have an opinion on most of their stuff. What do you think? Let me know.
I'd have to agree with you on that one, mate. It's something I'm aware of them. I see the odd bit now and then, but I don't follow it.
I mean, there's some interesting stuff because, you know, I've watched when I was doing some of the Psionics Aurora stuff. I was looking at some of their night vision and their helmet setup videos and bits and bobs. So some of it's been really quite useful. I used to watch Random Trashy before they changed to, which was Tim's YouTube channel, and before they changed the name to the Heresy Group a bit more, when it was a bit more kit review orientated. So that's that. What is worse, Gnu? Oh, you're fired, mate.
I can tell you that for a start, though. It's
What?
the well Uzi. I can spit BBs further than that fires. I'm not joking. We got 2 of them for a post-apocalypse game we were doing, and my mate Evo, who knows what he's doing with guns, did his best to fix them, and they were still atrocious. Right, they were terrible.
Max asks, will you build me Gucci Delta bits? Yes, absolutely, mate. PM me and we'll work something out. I would really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Thin Brown Line asks, where do you see the channel in a year's time? I can open up YouTube Blade and probably tell you the sub number. I don't really know. I love doing what I'm doing, and I want to carry on doing. I want to get better at what I'm doing. I want what I would like to be. I'll be quite honest. I want to be the world's best informative YouTube channel. That's what I want. Some people tell me I already am, which I'm a bit dismissive of, but I really would like to be, you know, the best. That drives me. And the best tends to mean the most, you know, putting the best information out, the most factual, the most stuff like that. I find that really interesting. Rob asked, do I regret getting GHK over the MWS? I've never shot an MWS, so I don't really know.
Do you know what? No one does a decent Uzi. Sorry to cue Gasly. Like there's the old Marui one, which had a really, really weird system inside it, and I'd love a decent Uzi. I know they're a bit old school. I know you've got to be in your 40s to really appreciate Uzis, but I wish someone would do a decent one now.
Yeah, it was quite a hard decision. Rob says he's got an MWS on order. It was a really hard decision. I went for the GHK mainly because it takes real steel parts, and so that was kind of cool for me. I wanted a gun that would take real steel is a really funny word, but I wanted a gun that would take real firearm parts, which is that kind of cool. Yeah, I think we're kind of coming to a natural end. So I'd like to thank Gadge for joining me and drinking. What were you drinking?
I'm drinking Brewdog Pale Ale.
And I was drinking. We really should do a beer review channel with Ben. Innocent Gun, the original, very good actually. It's in the co-op at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to go and get some more. Big thank you to the viewers. I'm just going to read Sean's comment and then I'll sign off.
That's a good comment actually, Tom.
Oh, is it? Well,
links into 6mm Gray's comment. It's one of the first events we went to as a Black Hawk Down one, I believe.
Okay, well, let's dive into it. I won't shut off straight now because that's quite interesting. Did you know that milsim in the UK has a different meaning to milsim in the US? Milsim in the UK is a specific. Oh, it's disappeared.
It's more about guys wearing the kit and just pewing.
Yeah, I think I did see some stuff about real sim in the States, and I think real sim is closer to what we would call milsim. And that's where they do more. But even a lot of milsim in the UK doesn't have real ammo caps and stuff. I think film sim in the UK, which is a term that Josh uses for his Gunwing games, is almost closer to immersion and realism than anything else.
I mean, we've chatted about this, and when we were going to do our game White Bear, we were going to do before it got cancelled. The idea for me for a milsim, it should be military units wearing the right equipment, using a reasonable structure. If you just do decent kit, green versus tan, to me that's not a milsim. That's just a themed skirmish. Yeah. If you can carry as much ammo as you want, use whatever gun you want, but like you guys are slightly greener than you guys who are slightly browner, sorry, that's just a skirmish. That's not a milsim, right? A milsim to me has objectives, it has briefings, it has order groups, it has structure, you have squad leaders, you have guys who actually turn up looking like they are the Bundeswehr or they are the modern Russian army or whatever. That's a milsim to me.
Yeah, well, that's another stream, isn't it? We need to do. What is a milsim, or almost how would we play Airsoft?
Yeah, I mean, again, but some of the milsims we've been to in the past. So, going back to those early Sterling days and the Black Hawk Down events, I remember the LFO guys all bought tricolour and the bump helmets and the right rifle, and they all turned up as a group of 20 of them, looking like Delta Force guys or Rangers.
We were still running around in Flecton though, so it was better than. A couple of comments on the Gregory Wong situation in the States at the moment. I'm not going to comment until all the facts come out. Other than I think it was really, really ill-advised.
It's naive.
I don't know what was going through his head. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know the situation he was responding to. It was clearly not a great idea. But and I'm sure more details will come out in the future. Okay, so on the second attempt, I will wind up the stream. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really nice just chatting, guys, and some really nice. Obviously, always really nice to chat to Gadge. Really nice to chat to you, viewers, in the comments section. Thank you for contributing. It's really valued. I really enjoy this kind of interaction with you lot. And we'll see you soon. So there's a few videos coming up. Look out for those. I'm sure there'll be a live stream next week. Big thank you to Gadge. Thank you, Gadge.
It's all right, mate. Always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Thanks again to everyone in the comments.